Hello everyone, and welcome to a little New Year's video thing. I did something like this last year, where I did a top 10 video games I've played overall. So this is not just for 2014, this is overall top 10. I'm going to do the same thing this time, with a few differences to what I did last time. Last time, I think I made 3 mistakes. I did top 10 games looking back, of games I've played and enjoyed. I did top 10 games looking forward that I want to play, which I think was a bit of a mistake, doing those two in one video. I did them all. I did all 10 games, or 20 games actually, in one video, and there was nothing for you to watch. It was kind of just me rambling, kind of podcasty, only rubbish. So I'm gonna change that. I'm only gonna do the top 10 games looking back. I'm going to do 2 videos, one, numbers 10 to 6, and then numbers 5 to 1. And thirdly, I'm hopefully going to have the games happening in the background as I'm talking about them. At least that's the plan. So, top 10 games. I've gone for games I've played long enough that I have a good idea about them, whether I like them or not. That does mean that out of the games I'm currently Let's Playing, Mass Effect 2, Baldur's Gate Enhanced Edition, and Oblivion didn't qualify based on that, because I don't know if something really horrible is going to happen in the last half of those games or whatever that I've not reached yet. So I'm fairly sure that they'd probably make next year's ? And then I've just gone through and thought about them and which games have I've enjoyed the most, whether it's the story or the gameplay or whatever. And that's overall time, not just over this year, over all time. So let's get on with it, and let's look at what the games are. So number 10. This was my first ever Let's Play. So the reason it was my first Let's Play is because it probably would have ended up on this list, and that is Ghostmaster. Now, in Ghostmaster, you're playing an ectoplasmic bureaucrat who's in control of a group of haunters or ghosts or spirits or whatever, and you have been given a variety of tasks. It might be to scare away the humans from a particular space. It might be to convince someone that ghosts are real. It might be to recruit a particular ghost to your group. Loads of different things. And it's kind of got strategy puzzle elements to it. So you've got the strategy of trying to balance your plasm, sometimes depending on the mission, your plasm, which is what controls how many different powers you can use, because different powers, more powerful powers, require more plasm. So you'll need to build that up. But the way you maintain it is by scaring mortals. Sometimes you can't scare them all away. So you've got to kind of keep that as a nice balance. So you have to maintain your resources, choose your powers correctly, but you also have some puzzly elements in freeing the restless spirits, the ghosts, kind of intrinsic to that level, that you can recruit and get to join your group, your kind of army kind of thing. You've got all your ghosts back at the old schoolhouse where you were summoned, and you get more and more people, get more and more options. And I hate you, Bridget. I hate you. I hate you. I hate you. Check out my Let's Play to understand that one. So you've got to kind of work. Sometimes their clues are quite cryptic as to what they want you to do, what kind of things you want to have happen. So you've kind of got to work that out, and then sometimes you've got to work out what powers you need to make sure that happens. And sometimes even your powers don't actually help, which is kind of, I hate you, Bridget. I really do. So the plot of it is you are this ghoul, this ghostmaster, this ghostly bureaucrat, and at the end of Act 1 and Act 2, you try and recruit this creature called the Darkling. And you fail both times, because he's captured at the end of the second one by the Professor. I can't remember, he probably actually has a name. And at the end of Act 3, you visit him, in the hospital, in the asylum part of it, the roof space. And in that one, you finally free the Darkling. And then you have the epilogue where you have the Ghostbusters, trying to bring... I can't remember what it's called. It's like... Oh, I can't remember. But it's this ectoplasm bomb, which will wipe out all ectoplasm-based life, i.e. ghosts, from Gravenville, which includes you. So you have to go to where they're going to attack, which is the school, because that's where you're based, and you have to try and beat them. And so it's kind of an interesting story, because it's quite weird, and normally you'd expect to be playing the Ghostbusters kind of role, but you're not trying to exorcise the ghosts because you are the ghosts. And so it's kind of an interesting spin on that, but it's very interesting kind of strategy puzzle type game. Number 9. This is it's an RPG. I know, surprising that I have RPGs on this list if you follow my channel at all in any way. This is the Temple of Elemental Evil. I think these are the guys who did Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines. And it's kind of a bit weird in a way. Just it's a D&D game. It's based on 3.5 edition of D&D, if memory serves. So that's a difference to Baldur's Gate. It's set in Greyhawk rather than the Forgotten Realms. Another difference to Baldur's Gate. But it's based on an old adventure. I think I actually have it. So there's some similarities. I could probably read that, and then if I do it as a Let's Play, it wouldn't be that blind. But I won't. That would be naughty. I have actually played part of that adventure, and I've played this game. It wouldn't be blind anyway. What am I on about? Crazy fool. It'd be half blind. I've played quite a few times, and I've played it up to just entering the temple, but never gone beyond that. So I feel confident playing it. It's also actually turn-based, and it's not this kind of random... Oh, it's turn-based inside the computer, but you can do real-time commands and decisions and stuff. No, just do it turn-based. Just do it turn-based, guys. It's one of the reasons why Temple of Elemental Evil is something I really want to do, is because it actually does it turn-based, and I think that works better than the kind of Dragon Age, Baldur's Gate kind of... Ooh, it's kind of turn-based, but not really. Ooh. Yes, it's turn-based. The computer is doing it. It's turn-based. So the plot to Temple of Elemental Evil is that there is a temple full of evil, and it rose up and was crushed, or was it? And so now the evil is appearing and arising once more throughout the land around Homlet and Nulb, are the two villages, and you just happen to be doing something, and then you get drawn into it, and your little... Actually, I like that, because each of the 9 different alignments have a different kind of introductory story, getting them connected into Homlet and connected to the stories, which I think is a great idea. And so it's kind of a tweaked version of 3.5. Because I think they'd done it and they started it under 3rd edition, and then Wizards released 3.5, and then they were told from on high by the publishers, I'm guessing, you must make it 3.5 because that's just come out. And so there's a few rules that aren't quite there because they didn't have time to implement everything. I think there's a few mods you can get that I'll have to look at, which add more content or re-add content that had to be cut for the time, so they could publish it on time, which I think may have also happened with Vampire. So very enjoyable. It's 3.5. You get all the different classes from that. The only reason why it's not higher is because you have to create 6 characters for it, which is not something I'm kind of a fan of. I'd rather create 1 character, kind of like Baldur's Gate, where you have the 1 character and you can find companions, you can bring companions into your group, and go from there. But I think the reason you create the 6 is because it's basically you're playing the adventure, and that doesn't have any kind of random NPCs that join you, and it doesn't have any kind of balance for losing your characters early on. No, not having a full complement early on. So you've got that kind of balance where they'd have to really quite change or tweak, certainly, the earlier encounters in case you hadn't picked up everyone. You have to well, you don't have to create 6, but you have 6 slots, and if you want 6 characters, you have to pick them. You have to make them. You can also get a number of NPCs that you hire, but they're extras, and they might not stay around and whatever. So you kind of have to create a decent party ahead of time, which is just a load of hassle. I'd rather just have one character and this be kind of his story, and the companions are joining in and everything. Kind of how I see Baldur's Gate going. Yes. Number 8. Another RPG. This time quite different from quite a few of the most of the RPGs I'm doing, which are more kind of fantasy based. This is more an RPG in the fact it has the stats and whatever. It's very linear. You don't really. I don't think you have any dialogue options. I think it's all cutscenes. So it's very kind of action RPG, rather than the more kind of BioWare-y Baldur's Gate, Mass Effect, Dragon Age, Oblivion, Temple of Elemental Evil, even. It's Freedom Force, which is a superheroes RPG where you are going around and smiting the wicked and going from level to level. So in that way, it's not hugely RPG. It's more an RPG in the terms of your characters level up, they gain new abilities, they can improve their abilities, and go on and on and on. The plot for it is quite interesting. There's an alien race who are planning on taking over Earth, or the alien overlord, whoever's in charge. I think it actually might be called Overlord. He wants to take over Earth, because every alien apparently wants to take over Earth for some reason. I think it's the real estate values. And the school catchment area, of course. It's wonderful. Shut up, Dragonster. He wants to take over Earth. And the way he plans on doing it is he is going to use something called Energy X. And he's going to give it to all the worst criminals, the worst people in the world. And they will become supervillains and cause anarchy and havoc and rip the world apart, basically. So he can just waltz in, dum-ty-dum-ty-dum, and take over the Earth. It's kind of the reverse of the plot to DC Universe, due to the fact that in that game, the plot is the world was taken over by aliens. The only way Lex Luthor can think to stop that is to go back and give everyone powers, so that you've got superheroes and supervillains kind of training so that they can take on this huge force. It's kind of like the inverse of that. Unfortunately, I say unfortunately, fortunately for us, unfortunately for Overlord, a character called Mentor, I wonder what role he'll have in the game, manages to steal some of the Energy X and comes to Earth, and he's shot out of space. He crash lands. His pod, what are they called? Life pods? Escape pod. There we go. Escape pod. His escape pod lands on Earth, but the Energy X kind of goes all over the place. So yes, some supervillains get it. Yep. But also, you start creating superheroes, and that's where the story begins, as you follow one of these new superheroes. Well, these superheroes, because I don't think they really existed in world before. And here's a man called, I think Frank... Is it Frank Styles or Frank Miles? I can't remember. I think Frank Miles. Or is it Styles? No, I think it's Miles, because I think Frank Styles is a famous person that I know, or someone I know of. I can't remember. But he becomes the Minuteman! For justice! And that kind of thing. And... It is it's very, very cheesy, but it's very, very fun. It harkens back, I think, deliberately to the kind of 60s classic kind of comics, to the extent that when you hit someone, you get a little kind of pow, bam, bash kind of comic sound effect pop up. It's cheesy, kind of fun, but I've really enjoyed it. I think it was actually the first game I ever, or it's the first game I remember completing. Is that even? Yeah, I think that is the case. Because when I first played video games, it was very much kind of, and up until I started Let's Playing, it was mostly the case where I just go, I'm going to play this sandbox game, I'm going to fiddle around with it, or I'm going to meander off and do this thing. Oh, I've been distracted by this game now. Oh, I'll play this. Oh, I'm distracted by this game. Blah, blah, blah. I'd very rarely do the stories proper. So it's very interesting Let's Playing, because I'm now forcing myself to finish these games, which is brilliant, because these are brilliant games, and I should finish them. I should have been finishing games a long time ago. But this was such a great idea. It was so fun. And it has a sequel, which is Freedom Force versus the Third Reich, which is a game I've never finished. Well, no, I say never finished. I haven't finished it because I've never played it. That's the one. And I really want to get to that. The problem is it has a lot of particle effects, which really messes with the fraps. But I should get back to it. I should have another go. Now I'm occasionally using OBS for some games. So that's the plan. That sounds like a plan. I will actually do that. I'll give it a go. I should try it out, just see if it works with OBS, and then maybe, who knows. Stay tuned. Next time, same freedom time, same freedom channel. I'm weird. Alright. Number 7, a game I Let's Played this year, which was Valiant Hearts: The Great War. The game element, let's be honest, the game element in it is not brilliant, in terms of the fact that it's very much kind of it's a puzzle game in the same vein of the Lego games. Here are some random things around the world that you might need to pick up and use, and by might we mean will. There are certain problems, and you will need to do the same thing to deal with it every single time. And it's the same problems over and over again in some different order. And those puzzles, they're often like, oh, there's barbed wire in the way, you cut them. Or you need to spin a wheel to do something. Sometimes you'd get a quite interesting idea, but then it would just fizzle away into nothing. It seemed like several minigames stuck together, so the gameplay isn't hugely brilliant. It's kind of, go right. Oh, there's a problem. There's an obstacle in the way. All right, solve it. Okay, how do I solve it? Do you have an item on you? Yes. Throw it. That didn't work. Is there a lever to pull around here somewhere? Oh yeah, there is. There's one over there. Okay, pull the lever. Okay, I pulled the lever. That didn't do anything. Is there now an item you can figure? And so it's kind of like pick up an item, throw item, give item to dog, pull a lever. What are they called? Valves. Turn a valve or something kind of circular that you can rotate. Those kind of things. They're kind of the main ways of solving any kind of problem in the game. And so the gameplay isn't necessarily brilliant. Even having a dog, dogs are brilliant, but it's the story. I think the ending is brilliant. It's a great game. It's about it feels kind of in a way like World War One to some extent. You're following Emil from the beginning, from the declaration of war, where he's forced to join up, all the way to the end, where spoilers. Go and check out my Let's Play. If you want to know what the ending is, check out my Let's Play, or you don't have to. Just watch the end. Just watch the last like 2 or 3 episodes to see the ending. It's because I think it jumps around a lot, but because all these characters kind of have stories that fit together, it kind of works. Unlike another game that I've recently played that does a similar thing called Unrest, where you jump around from character to character. Their stories don't mesh. You just think, I'm now randomly someone else. Why is this the case? Whereas with Valiant Hearts, you start off as Emil, but then you'll play as someone else because you've met them and you know them, and so you understand how there's a connection, and sometimes those bits of story kind of interconnected in of themselves, which is quite interesting. I think this game is here primarily because it has a great story, and not necessarily because it's a good game. Which I don't think I'd say about anything else I've got on this list. I think they're all great games. This one's kind of more of it's a good game, but it's the story that I think brings it into my top 10. Number 6, this one is a huge grand strategy game based on a huge grand strategy board game that I have and have never played, because, oh my goodness, those rules, you could probably kill an elephant with those rules. It is Europa Universalis 4. It's based on the board game Europa Universalis, if anyone was wondering. And it starts around the 1400s. I can't remember the exact date. 1444, I think, might be the start year. And that goes on, and it goes on all the way up to, I think, 18 something. I remember EU3 went up to 1815, so I'm guessing it's going to be around there. And you're seeing the rise and, more often than not for me, fall of nations that you control, and you see them grow and expand, and it's this great grand strategy kind of thing. There's a lot of interlocking mechanisms. You're going to build up your trade. Do you want to build up your taxation? Are you going to go and attack this guy and take this land? Or are you going to attack this guy and make him your vassal so that you can annex him like 10 years down the line and then have all of his land? But that's going to be easier to manage because he'll have caught it and you'll inherit his cause because you've annexed him. But if you attack him and take them, yeah, you'll have them for the first 10 years, but you won't have cause on them, and you'll have the problem of rebellions will be more likely. There's a few questions going on there. There's buildings that you can build. There's advisors that you can bring in to advise you and give you certain bonuses against various different things. Do they boost your taxation? Do they boost your trade? Do they boost your production efficiency? Do they boost your... will they lower your unrest? Will they boost your technology speed? Will they boost your... religious unity, which becomes relevant if you're playing in Europe, because the Reformation can and will happen at some point down the line. There's loads of interlocking things. There's random events that will pop up and say, do you want to lose stability or lose some kind of power to slow down your tech? Or whatever. There's loads of these kinds of decisions that you're faced with. Sometimes it's, who do you ally? Who do you make your rival? I always find it interesting playing in the Holy Roman Empire and trying to manipulate how that works, because obviously there's electors and they decide who the next emperor is, and that's an interesting thing to try and manipulate, or I find it interesting to manipulate. There's loads of things you can do, and especially with the fact that there's a converter from Crusader Kings 2 to Europa Universalis. I've never done this, but you could easily... start from the beginning of Crusader Kings 2, go all the way through Europa Universalis, all the way to the end of Crusader Kings 2, convert to Europa Universalis and play through all of that, and get this grand sweep of history, and that seems really interesting to me. I love history. I'm very much... I don't really read about it, and I just kind of pick up bits and pieces from hither and thither. I don't really read a concentrated thing on it, which is something I should probably think about fixing. But I always love these ideas, these grand, sweeping, historical games like this. So there's a lot in it. It's very complicated, and I don't want to go into all the options and all the things. I don't think I fully understand them, for one thing. And second of all, this is already nearly 25 minutes. So there's a lot going on in this game. There's no real fixed story to it. Basically, as soon as you start a game, random things will happen to random nations. It's very unlikely you're going to have the same history we recognize as our history, just because these random things will happen People will have random heirs with different strengths, meaning that their country will focus on different things in the future. Loads of there's little bits of randomness, but it's kind of manageable to an extent in what you can do and what battles you fight, what wars you go for, those kinds of things. So although there's randomness, there is a lot of control that you have available to you in what you do, how you build, who you ally, who you rival, loads of different things like that. So, yes. So that is my numbers 10 to 6 in my top 10 games of all time. Next time, it'll be 5 to 1. I'm sure you're wondering where some games are. Maybe they're there. Thanks for watching, everyone. Thanks for watching.